it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. I know that this video is very poorly timed because I'm pretty sure everyone's already done with their finals. So, great, go me. But I didn't want to wait another year for this because I just got the idea to film this. So today I'm going to be doing a video on tips how to read while you are preparing for exams or in the middle of exams, like what kinds of books to read, how to find time to read, like what makes sense, how I do it, things like that. And the reason that I'm doing it is because someone asked me on Instagram recently about this topic, and I gave a short answer, but I started thinking about more and more things that I do, or like tips and tricks, I guess, how to not completely fall behind on your reading while you are studying or having exams and things like that. So I thought I'd film it because I'll probably forget all these tips again until next year. Excuse the timing, but if this is something that's an issue for you, you can just like save the video and come back to it in a year again or something, I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. So the first tip is to read something you enjoy. That seems very basic, but I feel like a lot of people tend to think that they have to read short books during a time of stress or like a time of being busy, because obviously it means that you get done quicker. But I think it's much more important to pick up a book that you know you're gonna have fun with. You are already going to be so stressed out that it makes more sense to pick a book that you know you're gonna enjoy, even if it's a long one, as long as you don't like pressure yourself to read like the book in a week or 2 weeks or whenever. I did that last week. I read kind of a 600-page book in that time, and I literally would read maybe like 10 pages a day, if at all. Some days I wouldn't read, some days I'd read a little bit more if I had more time, but I had fun doing it, so it didn't really matter that I was nowhere near done with the book. It definitely should feel like you're reading something that's fun, maybe even a guilty pleasure book, something that alleviates all the stress you're already experiencing, because otherwise it might feel like you just have another chore ahead of you in reading a book that maybe doesn't give you enjoyment as much. And for me, it works best if I don't read anything too challenging. So as I said, maybe a guilty pleasure book, maybe something that's like lighthearted and fun, literally just so you can take your mind off of exams for a minute. The second tip is to do the exact opposite of that, which is to read something that in one way or another is relating to the things that you have to do. So for example, I had to write a paper this semester on terrorism as presented in anime, and I read a book on terrorism in Japan. It was Underground by Haruki Murakami, which is a non-fiction book, and it kind of is just interviews of people that survived the sarin gas attack in 1995. And even though of course I had to write a scientific paper, so I couldn't use just a literary non-fiction book as reference, it was still extremely helpful to read the book and sort of put myself into the zone of the topic that I was, you know, researching and doing, like thinking about all the time. So it did give me some nice like ideas in what direction to go with my paper, and at the same time it also felt like, even as I was reading, that I was doing something for university. So I was kind of having fun and feeling like I was being productive at the same time. So I think that sometimes that can be the perfect combination. If you're, for example, studying for a language class or something like that, it also would help you to read something in that language, obviously. So if you're studying for like a Japanese class, try to read a book in Japanese, obviously. I think that one's quite self-explanatory. The next tip is to read while you're doing something else that you already need to be doing. So for example, eating. I've said this in my how to read faster or more video that I did like a year back or so. You can go and check it out if you haven't seen it yet. If you're sitting on the train, if you're eating, whatever you're doing right now, like if you can read while doing it, read while doing it. That way you are actually getting ahead on your reading while not necessarily taking any time away that you would otherwise spend studying. Yes, of course, you could study while eating, you could study while on the train, but let's be honest, everyone deserves a break sometimes, and what better time to take that break while you're eating or somewhere, going somewhere, whatever. The next tip is to make a mental TBR for books that you're going to jump into right after your finals. So for me that was kind of continuing the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. I haven't done so yet because it's an enormously long series, like the books are huge, so I wanted to squeeze in a few more books before I get started, but the anticipation is so sweet. It feels so good, it makes me happy, and it kind of really helped me power through my finals too, because I was like, just a few more days, like sit down and study right now, and then once this is done, I am free, I can read the books I love, and I can just like drift off into that world, because I know if I were to pick up this book right now, all I would think about, like all I would do is kind of worry at the same time about exams. And by kind of taking these awesome books and reading them after, it's sort of like a reward that I'm working towards. This is another tip, by the way. Don't pick up anything too engrossing while you're studying or have a lot of work to do, because you are going to drop things that you need to be doing just so that you can read your book. That again is why I didn't pick up those Robin Hobb books while I was doing my finals, because I wouldn't have studied. I know this. This happened with the first book. I postponed everything. I didn't do anything at all. I procrastinated like crazy just so that I could read this book, and that's really not the state of mind you want to be in. So yes, read something fun and enjoyable, but also something that you can live without for a few days or hours. And finally, as always, don't beat yourself up if you end up reading barely anything or even nothing at all, because that is totally fine. You are totally allowed to take a break, even if that Goodreads challenge is calling you, even if it's telling you that you're like 3, 4, 5 books behind. That's totally fine. This is not the priority. I do kind of tend to put a little bit of pressure on myself if I don't read enough, just because I feel like I have so many books I want to get to, and I'm enjoying the reading itself too, but at the same time I want to, you know, get somewhere. So especially if I have to put it down and be like, no, I'm focusing on something else, that can be a little bit tricky to do. But of course, your finals take priority, and it's totally fine to have a break, put them aside, put the books aside, and just come back to them when you actually do have the time. So that's it, you guys. I hope this video was helpful for you. I know, again, the timing is a little off, but maybe you can remember some of these things that I was talking about for the next time that you will need them. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and also let me know if you have any other tips on how to get through finals and still manage to read a little bit every single day. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon with another video. Have a lovely week. Bye!